am Keith Demps, and this is my beautiful wife,
Kat Demps.
and we are the demonstrators. As we say, we are the KLD Consulting, and what we do as a couple, we help caregivers caregive for themselves without sacrificing their health. So, why do caregivers come to us?
Yeah. So single, married, and professional caregivers come to us for all things caregiver wellness.
Absolutely, that is correct. And so I want to say thank you all over the world. Thank you, Caregiver Global. Thank you for each and every one of you joining us. A little bit about ourselves and a little bit about what we do. We have caregivers caregive for themselves without sacrificing their life. And what we want to speak with you about today is how to caregive for oneself in the midst of a storm.
Amen.
So how many know I am from Florida now? Being from Florida, you have hurricanes. And when you're in a hurricane, I don't know if many of us know that in the midst of a hurricane, there's an eye that's in the midst of the hurricane. Well, in the midst of that hurricane, that's where the peace is. And usually at that time, we come out and we go out and in a hurricane and we gather things and look at the damage and assess the situation and then go back in for the back end of the storm. Well, that's what caregiving is in our eyes as the Lord has given it to us in terms of caregiving for caregivers. We do not want to sacrifice our life and our health in caregiving. We want to learn how to have peace, joy, happiness, and the love of God in the midst of a storm.
Yes. And with that comes some practical, tangible things we're going to talk about. I think it's called the self-care wellness roadmap.
Yes, ma'am.
The Demps.
Yes, ma'am.
Self-care.
Yes, ma'am.
Caregiver wellness roadmap. You're probably wondering, what does Demps stand for? Are they just being like egotistical, talking about themselves? No, there is a very good reason it is named the acronym Demps. And we'll get into that a little further, but I think it's only fair that you understand, what do we bring to the table? Why would you want to hear from Keith and Kat about caregiver wellness? We're not going to be like a major talk show host and tell a parent how to parent their child and has never had a child. So we will take turns briefly talking about our caregiver experience and how we came up with this wellness roadmap and how you can apply it to your life. What takeaways you can immediately start implementing in your life so that you are not caregiving and sacrificing your own health.
That's right. And so a little bit with that, I have been caregiving for my mother when I first met my wife for quite some time, and she has gone on to be with the Lord. But during that time of caregiving, I wish I had something that would help me in my personal life, in my health, in my spirit, as well as in my soul. So we talk about those things in terms of caregiving, as my wife mentioned, as the Demps Caregivers Wellness Roadmap. And with that, I wish that there was something that I could do during that time, or someone I can talk to, or a strategy that will uphold me and help me, because Lord knows in the midst of a storm of caregiving, it can be rough.
Absolutely. It can. And so I too share my own caregiver story. Before I met my husband, I was working full-time in healthcare and managing several businesses while taking care of my late great-grandmother, maternal great-grandmother, my late grandmother, who was a neonatal intensive care nurse for 25 years before she went on to be with the Lord. And during the time that my husband and I were dating, he was caregiving for his family members, and I was caregiving for my parents, who had been in a head-on collision in July of 2015. And since that time, they had sustained multiple injuries and required several months of rehabilitation with my brother, triaging them between an out-of-state hospitalization back to their home state. And so we have had multiple family members that we have caregived for, and they've gone on to be with the Lord. But as a result of those experiences, we've been able to, since Keith and I have joined our union in Holy Matrimony, we've been able to put pen to paper
Yes.
the what we did to
Yes.
caregive for our loved ones while they were in our care, and think about, how can this help someone else? Because a lot of times we get so caught up in our situation that we don't really stop and think, okay, let's be solutions oriented about this. How can we make this not just a testimony? Everyone loves a testimony at church or at a conference, professional conference, but like, what are the nuts and bolts of the how to caregive without losing yourself, without sacrificing your health and becoming burnout?
That's right. And so that will lead us now to the Demps Wellness Roadmap. So that last name is spelled DEMPS. Of course, that's our last name. And the first strategy that we want to speak about is development. Now, development, you have to develop a plan. Failure to plan
is a plan to fail.
Yes, it 100%. Is 100%. And that's something that her father preached to us time and time again. You must have a plan. And for us, developing a plan for a strategy for a caregiver is one of the important things in terms of moving forward and caring for self. We cannot be helpful to anyone if we do not first help ourselves. So first part of that D in the first name of Demps, in the last name of Demps, is development. You want to tell them about the second one, sweetheart?
Yeah, so I'm the summarizer. I love to take notes and kind of bring it all together. So what my husband just spoke of is a plan, right? Develop a plan to your specific situation. So that means you need to think about what your needs are. There needs to be a needs assessment, which we can talk through that offline if you choose to get more specialized help from us. Tailor a plan for your specific needs as you care for yourself and others without sacrificing your own health. And that doesn't have to be a sick loved one. That could be a special needs child. That could be your husband. There are many caregiver capacities that one works in, and it doesn't have to be personal. It could be a professional capacity. Nurses are huge caregivers. I consider them the gatekeepers, and they caregive every. Yes. They work 10-hour shifts times 3 days a week, or sometimes 4. So, think out of the box when we use that word D as in develop. The second part of the Demps Self-Care Caregiver Wellness Roadmap is execute. E is for execute.
That's right. Yes. And that's so important as we execute the plan that we just developed. And with that execution, we talk so much about what we need, things that we might want, things that we desire in terms of caregiving in the midst of the storm. Executing it is very important. Put it into action. As we always say, faith cometh by hearing, and hearing from the word of God. Faith in action is what brings about actions in your life and transparency, as well as a strategy. So the next one that we would talk about is the M, telling us how to maintain in the midst of all of this, how to maintain a strategy that works for us after we execute it, because sometimes we can get off course just a little bit when all of the storms in life begins to happen, when we're pressured on every side. It's like today, to be very transparent with you, after we're done here, we're off to a funeral. We was at a funeral service yesterday. And then most recently, my wife just lost her father, not lost, but her father went on to be with the Lord. And yet we're still full-time caregiving for her, his wife. And so in the midst of all of that going on, we've realized that executing this roadmap, that we have to maintain it. Maintaining really means stay focused, stay centered, stay on track with what you're doing that will help self and maintain self.
Yeah. So just to slow down a little bit, because there's some nuggets of wisdom and knowledge you may be trying to write down. That is an execute. We want you to think about putting your plan into action. Once you have a plan as a caregiver, what is your self-care plan? Not the person you're caregiving for. We're not talking about that individual. We're talking about you as the caregiver. Once you develop it, you want to execute it. It's so easy to talk about these things. Oh, yeah, I know what the word develop and execute and maintain means. No. Every day we have to, just like we have to fight for time to pray and meditate on the word and check in with ourselves individually and as husband and wife. It is so very easy to look at these plans, these actions, these bullet points, develop, execute, maintain, and realize we're really not implementing. We have it in our head, but when the storms come, as my husband explained, are we really executing it? So
that's right.
If you're taking notes, really put a big D and then develop and really think about, okay, what is my plan going to be moving forward after today's second day of this conference? Hopefully you've been getting information since yesterday. As you execute the caregiver self-care plan, reflect, not every month, not every week, reflect daily, just like hopefully you study the word of God or wherever your faith is, daily. That's right. Reflect daily on your plan and what is working, what is not working. Journal it. If all you do is write yourself an audio, if you don't have time to write it down, or even talk to text, an audio, somehow record your successes and your failures, because I guarantee you'll be able to look back and reflect like, oh my God, that really worked. Oh my God, I didn't even try that.
Yes.
That's why I'm so frustrated, because I had the plan, but I didn't implement it. So as my husband just said, the maintain part is maintenance is key. It's key to your caregiver wellness plan. It will not work if you don't implement it. That's and right. It won't work if you're not consistently tweaking it, meaning maintaining it. So think about the changes you may need to make based on changes in your family. We're in the holiday season. We have to think about strategically how we're going to have, coverage for when we want to go out and have a spa day or a date night. So it takes planning, and it takes constant rebooting.
Yes.
To make it work.
That's right. That's right. And so for our next one, it is pivoting. Now, pivoting involves, oh my goodness, just what my wife just mentioned. How can one pivot from one thing to the other and still maintain, develop, and also execute? It's so important being able to pivot in life and not be so settled or stuck in a mundane state of mind. Rehabilitation, pivoting, going and doing something for self, not doing the same everyday routine of life and saying, oh, okay, what worked yesterday, this is what's going to work for me today. No, being able to be flexible in one's life and saying, Lord, I thank you for this day, but this is a new day that I've never seen. I don't know what's in store for me, but you know what's in store for me. So being able to pivot in life is so important, as my wife will speak more about that, because Lord knows she knows.
Yes. So let's just face it. We as women, whether we're single, married, professionals, grandmothers, grandparents, we constantly juggle. We have to pivot and strategize. We have to block and tackle. Let's just face it. We're the cleanup crew, right? But we undergird our loved ones, our spouses, and strategy is just what it is. It's putting on the whole armor, right? It's having the toolkit and tapping into your toolkit when you need it. When you need to cut something, you pull out your scissors. So pivoting your self-care wellness plan, as my husband said, don't get in that rut of doing the same wellness plan. Like we'll switch it up. One weekend we may get a massage. The next weekend we may go to a concert. A couple weeks ago, my husband surprised me and took me to an ice skating event because he knows I love ice skating, professional. And my sister-in-law, she was almost about to go into being an ice skater professionally, and I would have gone to every event, but I genuinely appreciate how every week end, every week and weekend, we try to do something different as part of our self-care wellness plan, separate from our date night, because the marriage is something that is totally different, right? You have your time for your spouse, and then you have your time for your self-care. And those are two totally different things. Don't snowball those. It's kind of like having a birthday and Christmas and your relatives like, oh, I'm going to get you a birthday gift / Christmas gift. No, you don't want a 2-for-1. Don't cheat yourself. So make sure that self-care wellness plan is tweaked as needed. So whether it's an upcoming holiday and you're going to have extra responsibilities, making the plan work for you is worth it.
That's right. That's right. It's very important. And so for the last one, for the S, is the source.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. The source is so important. My wife just touched on it just a little bit. In terms of wellness, self-care wellness is so important. What are some of the things that you like as a caregiver that you desire to do for self in terms of wellness, the source of that wellness? She just mentioned manicure, I think pedicure. She did it yesterday. And for me, it may be just shining my head. I don't know what it might be, but for me, have that source of outlet that you have, that you do for self on a regular basis. Do not deny yourself, because one of the things about caregiving, we give so much of ourself and we deny ourselves when it comes to taking care of self. Have a source, write those things down, put it in your plan, implement it. I don't care, like my wife and I just mentioned, if you have to go out and get someone to caregive or sit in for that loved one that you're caring for, do that. Give yourself that 30 minutes, 1 hour out of a day, and then out of a week. Make plans in advance for that. And if it takes turning the phone off just for a few minutes and having that quiet time, if that's what your source is, so be it. If it's reading a book, so be it. Whatever you do, just do it.
Exactly. Yeah, well said. And I can't harp on that more. In the few minutes we have left, we want to focus on, you are not the source of everything. You were spontaneously created, whether you believe it or not. You didn't just spontaneously get here. There were some resources and materials that had to take place for you to get here. So in order for you to maintain your well-being, you need to tap into your resources and materials. That could be human resources. So professional sitters, family members who will kick in while you go do what you need to do to take care of yourself, tighten yourself up in terms of, maybe you need to get your wig split, you need to get your hair done. You just need a minute to go for a walk. We want you to think strategically about even those little things, how you're going to source your self-care wellness materials and resources. And I know Sherelle will give us time later to talk a little bit about the how, but we are more than happy to give you more information at a later time on how to work with us and put this plan into action with personalized coaching. But we hope this information has been helpful to you as you develop, execute, maintain, pivot, and source what is needed to self-care for yourself while you care for others.
That's right. And you can reach us at kldconsulters.com. Again, that is kldconsulters.com. Sherelle?
Thank you, Sherelle.
Thank you so much. We love you, caregivers.
Yes. Have a great day.